see. Welcome to chess, ladies and gentlemen. Malignant Young Puck dotting some of my chess, ladies and gentlemen. I got a nice one for you today, and I kind of have a game that has very similar feelings for me, nostalgia-wise, and we'll get to that at the end. But I have the Sam Shankland Wesley So game for you, taken from round 5 from the Champions Showdown, Chess 960. So for all of my people in the Philippines, I will say mabuhay to you. Kamusta na aking makaibigan? Masaya kong makita kang muli. Maraming salamat po sa nanonood ng aking mga video. Ingat lagi, mabuting pagbati. Thank you guys very much for stopping by and taking a look at my stuff. Hopefully everybody is doing magaling. Appreciate you guys very much for stopping by. Yeah, like I said, I have a little special treat at the very end. So stick around for that. But if you guys are ready to go, let's take a look and see what we have for this game. So we got E4, E5, knight to B3, knight to E6, knight to E3, knight to B6. So if you shift this position just one file over, you pretty much would have a 4 knights. But I mean, of course, like the pieces on the back rank are all weird and stuff like that. So I mean, you wouldn't really have a 4 knights. But I mean, that's kind of, be like a 4 knights of king's pawn type situation going on. So we do have C3. We got D5. Now, unfortunately, the situation as far as D5 is concerned is it does actually allow white to just win an entire pawn. It's not like a pawn break. It's not really breaking anything down in the center. It's basically, like I said, just giving white an entire pawn for free. And we're going to get to that right now. So pawn takes D5. Knight comes to F4, thinking maybe you can like double attack the pawn, but you just have C4. And like I said, I mean, white is just a pawn up now. And there is no compensation for black at all. So, I mean, it's not the absolute best for white, but I mean, they are able to hold on to this pawn. So we have C6, and then Sam Shankland goes queen to C3. He's trying to make a nice little direct attack on this pawn and undermine the protection of this knight. So we do have castles by black. Queen takes E5, and then we do have knight to D3, which is actually a pretty interesting move, simply because this bishop is undefended, and so is this queen. And so you kind of have a little bit of a pickle as white. I mean, you definitely have some stuff to try to solve. So you have queen coming down to E4. Knight takes on E1, and then you actually see Sam Shankland make the only move in the position, which is to counterattack this queen on C8 with bishop to G4. So it develops your bishop. It attacks this knight down here on E1. And I mean, the thing about it is you're not up. I mean, you are up an entire piece as black. But I mean, there's not really a way for you to like protect this knight. So I mean, you're just going to be losing the knight. So you kind of have a decision, like, are you going to play actively or are you going to try to like save the knight, which is impossible. And so we actually see pawn takes D5, pawn takes D5, and then we have Wesley So going F5. The only unfortunate thing about F5 is it actually just gives away another pawn because it doesn't change anything in the situation. It just allows the bishop to take on F5. And then so now you have to do something, kind of drastic in the position with rook takes F5, which is what we see in the game. But if we back up, after pawn takes, it's actually much better to go bishop to D7. This actually kind of keeps black in the game a little bit. I mean, white definitely still has the edge, but, it does a little bit of attacking. So, if you did see rook taking E1, bishop takes D4, queen takes G4, queen takes D4, knight takes D4, and then knight takes D5. And, I mean, you are down a pawn as black, but, I mean, you do definitely have some targets and stuff for white. So, I mean, this ends up being only just like maybe half a pawn's worth better for white. So, this is definitely a game. But like I said, we did have F5. Pawn took F5, rook took F5, and then we have knight takes F5. And this does allow bishop to G6, which does pin the knight. But we do have we do have G4. And G4 is very much protecting this knight. And there really isn't another way to attack it further and just, further pin it. So we see queen down to D7. Now rook finally takes on E1. We see knight taking D5. You have knight to C5. And this is actually a pretty inconvenient move for black to deal with because there aren't a lot of great squares for black to go to. So what we actually see in the game is queen to F7. But if you did have something, let's say you did like queen to C6, You know, you'd be looking at queen to e5, you know, attacking this this rook. And I mean, you're pretty much going to be forced to trade here, you know, and you know, take back and stuff like that. So, I mean, that's kind of the situation that you're looking at. So, if we backed up, like I said, we did see queen to f7, and then we actually see queen to e5, attacking this lonely rook in the corner, which is what we were doing before. And so we actually see bishop to c7. And this is actually a game-losing blunder. And it seems like it does what it's supposed to. I mean, it protects the rook, so all of your pieces are developed, everything is going good. But I ask you now to go ahead and stop the video. And this is where the personal nostalgia comes in for me. We'll get to that in a minute. But if you want to pause the video and see what white has to play in this position, go ahead and do so. Okay, cool. So it was at this point that I actually got very excited personally, because I saw almost exactly the same type of tactic in one of my games. You guys know that I played a tournament last week, and I was playing against a player that's about 1,500 USCF. So, I mean, he's a pretty solid player. But I noticed the tactic, and I was just thinking, like, you know, I have my pieces out. I'll explain that in a minute. But it is almost the identical same type of tactic in this position. It just looks a little bit different. But you guys are going to see the similarities. So, in this position, if you guys guess the move, queen takes d5, completely sacrificing your queen, but getting it back, you would be absolutely right. You noticed that if the queen takes back this queen on d5, you are going to be subject to a fork. So the queen taking back here, you actually see knight to e7 with check, and this is just game over. The king has to move somewhere, so it doesn't matter where the king moves. You're going to be picking up this queen, and now you are just up an entire piece, and you're also up a bunch of pawns. So this is just, you just can't win this position, man. Like, there's nobody in the world that should win this position as black at all. And so, like I said, after queen takes c7 and then queen takes d5, it completely reminded me of the game that I just got done playing. So, if you guess queen takes d5, you're a gangster. Congratulations. You know, like, good job. I am going to actually show you the position that I got into in my game. So, let's go ahead and go. So, let me see. Let me get this pulled up. Let me flip over. Okay, there we go. Okay, so this is the exact position that I had. I was white in this game, and like I said, I was playing against, he's about a 1460 to 1500. I'm not sure 100%. You know, but he was like a fairly strong player, so he wasn't like a pushover player at all. But I got in this position, and the things that I was thinking about in this particular position is the fact that I have all of this came about from a Catalan. And so, you know, I got my fianchetto bishop over here. I got my bishop fianchettoed. You know, I got my rooks on good squares and stuff like that. I mean, the problem that black has is, I mean, I have my pawns stopping his pawns. I have like little penetration going on. This bishop is super bad. So I set up this type of a position, like basically trying to make it to where his bishop was just like null and void. And as you guys notice, this rook and this bishop are not being used at all. So I was thinking about these things. So, I mean, you know, I'm thinking about, like, you know, even if I waste a couple tempo producing a threat, it's not going to be the end of the world, because, like, as you guys can see, I have time. You know, wasting tempo is not as bad of a situation for me personally in this position as it is for my opponent. So I went ahead and went queen to h4. So I think maybe some of you guys might be looking like, man, okay, so I can kind of see the threat. My threat in this position is to take his knight off the board and force his queen to take back and then fork him here. And so I went ahead and moved queen to h4 thinking maybe he might not see it. And he did not. He moved queen to e8 and completely overlooked this tactic. So I dropped queen takes e7 on the board, and my opponent was like, wait a minute, what? And I'm like, yeah, bro, it's just a piece, dude. And, you know, I took a second. I took a second here. I was like, wait a minute. Let me just double check and make for sure. You know, let me okay, queen takes e7, queen takes e7, knight to g6 with check. I'm good. Okay. And like I said, I dropped queen takes e7 on the board. And he didn't really have anything better to do because I was forcing the trade of queens in this position. You know, and he has to try to hold on to his rook. So there's just too many things that are present in the situation. So he went ahead and took back. I went ahead and went here with check, of course. King came over, and then I took here with check as well. And my king, my knight can literally live either on G6 or E5, and this is just a complete piece. So when I saw the position that I saw in the game, reminding you guys of the position, let's just go back to the position real quick. Let me bring this back up. Right. This was a position that we saw in the game for Shankland, Wesley So, and when he did that. So you guys can see how similar those two positions are. The thing about when you do tactics and when you like solve tactics and when you're playing games and stuff like that, when you find tactics, they don't always look exactly the same every time. But if you guys recognize the position that I was in personally, then you guys will recognize that same tactic in different forms. So that's why doing tactics is really important, and playing games and looking at your tactics and your positions. It just gives you your memory. It gives you your, your pattern recognition and stuff for stuff. And that's basically the game of chess. So as long-winded as that was, I got the feeling, I was like, wow, this is just like my game that I played. And it was fun and exciting. And yeah, so I mean, I had to show you guys that real quick. And so this was a game that I actually did win. He produced some complications a little bit in a little bit after this. So I was like, you're just not gonna just lay down and just let me win the game. So I had to win the game. Like, so he definitely was a 1500 level player. So I mean, anyways, getting back to this one here. Yes. Okay, cool. So this was the end. Like I said, this was the end of the game here. Bam. And it was after Queen takes D5 that Wesley So did resign the game. So unfortunately, Wesley So won the game. So Sam Shankland, so Malakas C, Sam Shankland, and at least he went down in a brilliant way. This was a really nice tactic that Sam Shankland saw in the game. But like I said last time, I was gonna get you guys these good mornings. So for all of my people in the Philippines, I will say maayong buntag. Mayad na agahan, naibeg na bigat, masentos ya kaboson, marhin na aga, buenos dias, maayong aga, mapian na uma, kapian kapo no dios, mayap a abak, mayad na aga, mapia agay, mapia kapa pizza, my big abukla, marja na buntag, maria my nat, malpe na aga, kasan yangan si ilabi, salam, assalamu alaikum, merci to you. Appreciate you guys very much for stopping by and taking a look at my stuff. I will say makito tayo mamaya to my people in the Philippines. Pa alam, and I'll see you guys next time.